Board. Rob Denner from the city of West Des Moines. I was asked to give a little after-action review of our recent hosting of the Solheim Cup here in West Des Moines. A little bit about the Solheim Cup. It started back in 1990. It's essentially the ladies' version of the Ryder Cup, pitting the United States women's team against the European women's team. Some attendance numbers from the last few years. Final attendance numbers here in West Des Moines were 124,000 and change. Probably most notable out of all those numbers is that about 50% of them were from outside the state of Iowa, including 27 countries, mostly European. They estimated between 5,000 and 8,000 people coming over from Europe to watch this golf tournament. It was August 14th through the 20th at Des Moines Golf and Country Club. The massive undertaking to turn that golf course into a venue to host an event of this magnitude was absolutely amazing. 60 suites and skyboxes. They were referred to as tents around the course, the largest one being 165 feet by 165 feet. It held thousands of people. There was over 30 hours of live television, both on the Golf Channel and NBC. And then 2 country music concerts on Friday evening, Jake Owen and Rascal Flatts on Saturday evening for their entertainment. The accommodations, we filled up the Metro because those dates coincided with the state fair, which I think served well for those visiting from out of town that they were able to attend the state fair. But we took over a number of hotels. There were no hotel rooms available anywhere in central Iowa. In the Metro, there's 12,000 rooms and another 2,000 or 3,000 as far away as Ames and Boone and the periphery around, and we filled them all. A little bit about West Des Moines, though. We started this hosting golf tournaments back in 1999 when the U.S. Senior Open was here. Hosted about 250,000 people then. In the interim years, we've been hosting the Principal Charity Classic at Glen Oaks Golf and Country Club. It's since moved into Des Moines. And then I think ultimately what landed us the Solheim Cup here. Just a view of the course. Some of these tents that we'll call them, this was the first tee box. This was a 2-story, fully air conditioned, hands servants waiting on you, serving whatever you needed. These were $1 million donors that were in these suites. One of the named sponsors was the DuPont Pioneer, that they had a suite up there. Just amazing to see the infrastructure brought in. This was the stage area where not only the opening and closing ceremonies were held, but the 2 country music concerts. If you'll notice, let's see if you can see this pointer. Can you guys see the mouse? These 20 stalls, 1 through 20, were for the buses. Public parking was actually off-site up in Urbandale, and they were having to bring in buses, and this was an open grass field a few weeks prior that they were able to lay down a suitable surface for these buses to pull in, and had a steady stream of buses for most of the week, and especially on the weekend when things were going on. That Wells Fargo Pavilion in the lower right corner, that's the 165 by 165 foot tent, fully air conditioned. You can see in the CAD drawing in the upper left here, it's the yellow building. All those little black dots are actually banquet tables inside. It really is just amazing. So the other players, from our perspective, we started our planning about 18 months before the event actually occurred. So certainly here in the city, police, fire, EMS, Westcom, Public Works, our city administration. The other cities around, Clive, Urbandale, Waukee, Polk and Dallas County, the sheriffs and emergency management, the state level DPS, DOT, the Iowa National Guard's 71st Civil Support Team, Homeland Security, the Weather Service, and even private entities such as Permar Security and Mercy's Ambulance Service. A little bit about Westcom, for those of you who don't know, we put up an 800 analog system back in 1997. It was a Project 16 compliant system. Westcom was formed in 2001 with the consolidation of West Des Moines, Clive, and Urbandale's PSAPs. Then in 2014, we upgraded to a digital P25 system. And just last May actually, of 2016, we transitioned to the Isicsb, which is where I'm standing in front of you today telling you that Isicsb up and running here at Westcom. Westcom today, though, we serve about 155,000 people, 127 square miles of the 5 cities. Since the original formation, Waukee and Norwalk joined. 11 public safety agencies, 12 public service agencies in our school district, for a total of about 2,500 subscribers that are on live today. So at the Solheim Cup, we established a communications unit, appropriately named GolfCom, that was in a 40-foot mobile office trailer provided by the LPGA. We staffed it with tactical dispatchers or radio operators. They operated off, you can see in the lower right-hand corner. Oops, sorry about that. Hold on. The lower right-hand corner there, those tactical dispatchers operating off of consolettes. We had both wired and wireless telephone, public internet connection. It was a 100 megabit symmetrical connection. CenturyLink actually ran fiber throughout the course to support all of the different vendors and operational partners that were there. The city is heavily embedded with Microsoft. We have a couple other data centers over the hill here, and we use Microsoft products. And so Microsoft SharePoint, our Microsoft microsite, where we were maintaining all of our NIMS forms, 205s, 205As, 214s, and such. We had access to the National Weather Service. There was a weather partner that the LPGA brought in also, but we subscribed to a service called WeatherTap. And also Skype for Business, that having multiple layers of communication, so not only radio communications, but across the network using instant messaging and even the wired and wireless phones. There were a lot of redundancies built in. Back at dispatch, we set a dedicated dispatcher at a tactical console configuration that this person was not dispatching anything for the 5 cities. They were solely managing the outer perimeter events, certainly for the traffic load. And that screen that you see there is their console configuration, which included none of what our normal talk group usage is. So our activity log, our 214, here you can see from Monday through Sunday, the number of events that we logged, a total of 839 entries. This could be as simple as someone reporting somebody doing something not right and turned out to be nothing. Clear up to there were a number of ambulance transports off-site, criminals arrested for different things. But as you can see, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were our busiest days. Here were the number of personnel that were working on site that steadily grew throughout the week. And the list of the agencies, I've gone over most of those that not only our local partners, but those around us, our neighbors, even state and federal assets that were there. Here's how we designed the talk paths for communications. In the far left column, the main interior ops channel, we linked together. Each city has a City 1 talk group. So West Des Moines, Clive, Rivendell, and Waukee, City 1 were patched together. DPS was there, State Patrol was providing escorts downtown to the hotels, the official hotel downtown, the Marriott. So they're event 7. We linked in one of the regional tactical talk groups, ITAC 14 for the Dallas County folks that were assisting, and then one of the non-federal national interoperability channels at 800 megahertz, 8TAC 94. So those 4, 5, 6, 7 channels and talk groups were patched all week long and were the main operations channel. Then we had a west and an east exterior operations. Those were the 2s and 3s, event 8 and 9, and the regional TACs, TAC 15 and 16. We shared a couple command interoperability and tactical interoperability talk groups because the state fair was going on. We'd been involved in their planning efforts and were coordinating that if either event on either side of town grew into something larger, that we would both likely end up on here in the metro called mixed calling and mixed TAC 1, which are these VHF, UHF, and 800 non-federal national interoperability channels. We had it patched to us, we had it patched to event 6 for DPS and the regional calling channel 11. The rest are ETACs, encrypted TACs, and general TACs over there on the far right were just for dynamic assignment throughout the week for, depending on if any of the disciplines got busy with anything, we could dynamically assign those. So for the week on the main operations channel, there were 3,187 push-to-talks for a total of 8 hours, 35 minutes, and 13 seconds of talk time. Our busiest hours, the top three there are listed, Friday afternoon from 1 to 2 o'clock. I think what happened was the sun and the heat got a little warmer, and there'd been plenty of alcohol being consumed throughout the morning, and it sort of all hit after lunch. So there were a number of, call them patients, that needed some attention. Nothing really bad. I think we only transported one in that period, but then even the next hour, 2 o'clock, still continued to be pretty busy. The Sunday afternoon one at 3 o'clock was actually the closing ceremonies. And to point out there, we took, I mentioned all those talk paths that we had. We actually moved them all into one patch and ended up with 17 talk groups in a patch so that everyone was together because everyone was at the closing ceremonies at that point. Most significant to point out is that we had 0 busy signals throughout the week. There were none, either on our streets or at the event. There were no busy signals on the system. The big users, the on-site Golfcom dispatcher had 2,830 push-to-talks. They talked on the radio 4 hours and 51 minutes. Jody Hayes from West Des Moines PD was the interior commander most of the time during the week. Adam Porath was the exterior commander managing traffic. The dedicated Westcom dispatcher at 1,800. David Edgar was the EMS commander on site, and then Randy Cooner from State Patrol was coordinating State Patrol's transports back and forth from downtown. So we had a lot of people talking. The other thing that was interesting was all of the radio frequency energy generating devices that were brought out. The LPGA brought in a 16-channel UHF moto turbo system just to support their operations with about 243 radios. This was all of the LPGA's folks. Our 17 talk groups that we were using, the non-federal national interoperability channels. Verizon brought in a site on wheels. Wi-Fi was very saturated. I mentioned CenturyLink brought in that. I ran fiber down through the course. There were wireless access points all over the place. So I brought in our spectrum analyzer and drove around for a while, and all of the scorekeepers had devices that were communicating scores and things back. The camera crews from all the Golf Channel and NBC had stuff transmitting back. It was just amazing that nothing interfered, or we had no reports of interference with us. That it was pretty amazing. This device here, to the left of the television trucks, was the Chem Bio monitoring equipment from the CST that they had spread around the course, monitoring for any bad stuff. So some of our lessons learned, we need to do some more radio training. Public safety does great because we use a radio every day. But in our first aid tents, we had physicians and nurses from the hospitals, and they're great at saving lives, but they don't talk on the radio very well. So we need to do some training for them, just briefly, the push to talk, let up to listen kind of things. The second one is plain language. We discovered just because of the multitude of agencies that were involved, there were some that chose to use plain language or continue to use radio identifiers and not some of the, it's much easier to say I'm at 88th and Civic or 88th and University than somebody's regular call sign, because then I got to go look up where that call sign is, or I got to look up what a 10 code is. So using plain language and call signs plain language for call signs and eliminating the 10 codes is good. We also needed more talk groups available for dynamic assignment. That 1 and 2 o'clock hour on Friday afternoon, we filled everything up and discovered that we could have used more. So for next time, when whoever comes next, we'll be ready. So I have just a short little video with some more pictures here. It was an awesome event to host, very successful on a lot of different levels. So thank you for allowing me to share that. If there's no questions, thank you.
Quite the undertaking. Thank you.